Anime and manga, especially romance ones. I'm sure you guys are confused as to what I'm talking about. Well, anime and manga are based from mostly like Eastern Asia, like Japan. I know there's Chinese, Korean ones, but to specifically go into Japanese anime and manga, you probably have seen a lot of different shows from there that go and you wonder which ones you'd be willing to watch. You've got like Naruto, you've got some other ones, My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, One Piece. That's done with its first season after 1,000 episodes. Uh, but aside from those, I'm gonna look at specifically romance uh portions of it because there's some like Komi Can't Communicate or Nagatoro or a few other ones that I don't really remember all too well. Maybe Kobayashi's Dragon Maid I would say is also another one, which I would say is more slice of life than action and kinda romance because the because Kobayashi and Toru of course have, kinda something give or take going on, but don't get me wrong, I don't mind it at all. Not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't know if that's the entire purpose of that one. It's more of dragons coming from like another world coming into our world basically. That's kind of the main sort of thing, but I definitely like the romantic aspect of it a little bit. Aside from one specific one you may already understand, but besides the point, uh, one that I want to talk about for a little bit today is called You and I Are Polar Opposites, and that is a currently ongoing anime, but the manga already has ended, which is about two main characters, one being a Gyaru, if that is how I pronounce it. If I didn't, I am terribly sorry. I am not fluent in Weebanese, as those like to call it, but in seriousness, I am not a Japanese fluent person, so I couldn't tell you how exactly some of the stuff is said, other than I could probably try. But Gyaru and a mostly shut-in nerd guy that have feelings for each other, but I would say it's at the point of where when the manga and anime start, it's essentially to the point where they already had something established. They got to sit next to each other and all that other stuff. And by the time the first chapter is over, they already get together. And the girl asks first, funny enough. And the guy says yes, of course. And as the manga and anime go on, you will see that they are actively building on the relationship. They already have built upon being in school together for the most part, but they are actually building upon outside of school and actually being able to be a couple and do all this other stuff. And even the side characters have some sort of romantic aspect, their side like romance thing too going on. And that does it pretty well too, I would say the least. It does that, I would say, really, really well just because usually a lot of the other ones you can see every now and again, but they're not really as involved because you're more focused on the two main characters that are within the entire story, just doing whatever. Like, just doing slice of life stuff, going to like the mall or going to a like karaoke club or just, having an actual date as well. But this one actually does side romance just as well. It does take a little bit longer for some of them, but this actually makes sense considering they're more of establishing for like the first maybe couple of chapters, and then they end up having the other characters actually go on a date together, or at the very least go in and finally have like something that doesn't take just as long as the main characters, or having all the other side ones be so much shorter than the main characters to begin with getting together. Like there's some that I don't exactly can recall correctly or recall at all, but I'm sure there's maybe one or two that have side characters getting together before the main cast even gets together. And that's what sometimes gets me is like, why are we doing this? Please just get the main cast together. If you were going to have any sort of romantic implications in any form of anime or manga, it's been forever since I've like truly gone back and watched some, but most of them I've really kind of forgotten about because not a lot of them stuck out. There's plenty that I know that were like action that are pretty good. Like you've got, of course, a lot of the shonen ones like Naruto, My Hero Academia. I haven't gotten to watch One Punch Man, but I may end up doing that at some point. I would say definitely One Piece, but I've already seen how long that is, and I'm not spending all that time watching it. I wish I did in the beginning, because then I could at least be invested, but I am definitely not invested as much, but I have seen quite a bit of the stuff that's going on in there, with their sort of stuff in between, which again, a lot of the shonen is usually more action and for male like audiences really. Uh, and a couple of like mecha ones like Gurren Lagann, which I got to see the movies for about a couple years ago when they came out in theaters for the Western audiences after so long, and I thought it was really good when they like got to condense some of the stuff down. But again, besides the point, this isn't a review for that, but that one was pretty good. Uh, Evangelion, I got to watch with some friends, and that one was pretty good. It's just a lot of the romance stuff is like sidelined, or if the romance is the main thing, it's just completely shoved into the very end, and you're just seeing all these couplets of miscommunication just everywhere. And you just have to ask yourself, why am I watching this? Or I can't stop watching this until they get together. And by the time you're done and they get together, it's like, well, what happens now? I want to know what happens after. You and I are polar opposites does exactly that, but it gets straight to the chase because before it, they already have had some sort of established spot for the main characters. And after they get together, you actually see them go through and just flourish their romance even further than what you already expect. And of course, there is communication issues in this one, but they at least address them in that exact chapter or that exact episode and fix it for the most part. And sometimes it does stick a little bit, but usually they get it pretty much figured out by the next episode or the next chapter. And that is what I like about this one. My friend as well had a very similar thought of this exact thing, and I was like, wait a minute. So you can actually do this. Have two characters essentially get together and flourish their romance beyond just them getting together after so long, in which this person had the exact same thought, I am pretty sure. I really need to know their name for this one. I don't. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me, but just shout out to this person that actually wrote this entire fucking manga down. It was so good. I still have to get through the other half of the manga, but I feel like I should wait for the anime to go through because I definitely like to watch the anime more, and it does actually do a pretty solid one for one from the manga to the anime. So I might end up waiting for that to finish up. I know with My Hero, I ended up just going through the manga instead because I was tired of waiting, but I feel like this one I actually think it would be better waiting on the anime to get done. But I have seen throughout the first half, I really, really loved You and I Are Polar Opposites, and just might be peak romance storytelling in pretty much all of Japanese media that I have consumed as much or well as little as I have because I haven't gone through a lot of them, and there's quite a bit that don't pique my interest, but there's quite a bit that kind of do, but then there's something that doesn't really stick, and then I just end up flopping afterwards. But aside from that, that's really all that I have on this. Uh, Definitely, I would say highly recommend watching You and I Are Polar Opposites if you have not seen it already. If you already have or have already read it, good. I am glad you did because I wish I had found this sooner in 2022 because that was when the manga was starting. And I wish that I saw that because that was what me and my friend were talking about a while ago. And this was when this person actually went ahead and did it. And I wish I had found it sooner, but I ended up finding it fairly recently because the anime was actually coming out by the end of 2025, I believe. Because it finished in 2024, they got a anime adaptation set up. I didn't even know there was a thing until the week before, or no, the week of that they released the first like few episodes of it. But I went through and it was amazing. I loved every single minute of it, and there was a lot of absolutely wholesome moments, and I definitely want you all to see that as well. And if this is going to be your first one, I would start with some of the other ones before you immediately get ruined with this one, because I will say that if you immediately start with this one, I feel like you are going to get absolutely ruined for the rest of them. Because nobody aside from this one that I have seen thus far. I'm sure there's plenty more, but that's besides the point. That have done this type of storytelling as good as that. And I would say with that, that's really about it. So, kind of a short one, kind of. But other than that, thank you for watching. Uh, Thank you for those who end up actually sticking through to the end. And yeah, I would say that is about it. So I will see you all in the next one.